Donggo, and I'm here to discuss the definition of socialism and its advantages and disadvantages. Before we discuss the meaning of socialism, let's first tackle its origin. So, socialism came from the Latin word sociare, which means to combine or to share. The term socialism was first coined by Henry de Saint-Simon. He is also one of the founder of the utopian socialism. So, what is socialism? Socialism is a social and economic doctrine that calls for public rather than private ownership or control of property and natural resources. According to the socialist view, individuals do not live or work in isolation, but live in cooperation with one another. It means that everything that people produce, like crafts and raw materials, it was obligated to contribute it to the rest of the people of the state. Therefore, society should own or at least control property for the benefit of all its members.
Hi guys, I'm Mary Joy Buar, and I'm going to discuss about the American and African socialism. Hi guys, I'm Mary Joy Buar, and now we're going to talk about African socialism. Malalaman natin kung ano ba yung mga naging epekto matapos i-adopt ng mga African leaders itong sinasabing ideology, as well as kung ano ba yung mga implementations at mga naging outcomes ng mga decisions na ginawa nila. So, ang socialist doctrines ay inadopt ng mga African leaders ng 1950s and 1960s. This also became their mobilizing slogan to unite Africans around the challenge of economic development in their post-colonial societies. Dahil nga, gagaling pa lang ng time na yon ng Africa sa colonialism, naghahangad ngayon yung mga African leaders ng economic development para sa kanilang mga bansang nililid. Those African leaders were Julius Nyerere, Leopold Senghor, Mamadou Dia, Tom Mobia, Kwame Nkrumah. African socialism emerged rapidly as an electric and pragmatic approach to development. Ang mga naging goal nila kung bakit kailangan nila ng socialism sa kanilang mga bansa is for African identity, economic development, and class formation and social control. So si Leopold Senghor, he first used the term African socialism and argued that there should be a celebration of black culture and the African personality. On the other hand, si Mamadou Dia naman, sinabi niya, show socialism as a synthesis of individualist and socialist values producing a humanist outlooks. And for some of the African leaders, sinasabi nila na African socialism was part of the threefold revolutionary movement encompassing national self-determination, social revolution, and continental unity. The African socialism began with communal land ownership and cooperative agriculture, along with joint state and private initiatives to build the economy. So, isa sa pinaka-goal talaga nila is para buhayin yung ekonomiya ng Africa dahil nga kagaling na nila sa colonialism. So, noong 1962, nagkaroon ng conference ang mga African leaders na ginanap sa Dakar, Senegal, kung saan nagkaroon na sila ng clear definition at unified vision ng African socialism. Yung mga participants noon ay yung mga leaders na binanggit ko kanina at nagkaroon na sila ng reflection kung ano ba yung need ng kanilang respective countries at yun yung mga sinabi nila dun sa ginanap na conference. Nagkaroon sila ng iba't ibang view sa kung paano nila gustong ma-implement yung socialism sa kanilang mga bansa. Though meron silang mga iba't ibang interpretations sa socialism, the leaders agreed, however, that they need a path for African development. The leadership task was to unite all sections of society behind those development goals. So, hindi lang to para sa mga kanya-kanyang bansa nila. Ang goal din ito is para mag-unite yung African communities. So, ngayon, alamin naman natin kung ano ba yung outcomes ng mga implementation na ginawa ng mga African leaders. In some way, the socialism in Africa become very problematic dahil nga galing sila sa colonial experience. Hindi nila alam kung paano ba patatakbuhin tong socialism sa kanya-kanya nilang mga bansa. For example, in Ghana, after they gained their independence noong 1957, nagkaroon na sila agad ng African socialism, kung saan they stress the large scale of development of energy resources as a means of rapid industrialization. Kaya lang, yung Ghana, nagkaroon sila ng maraming utang at yung president nila na si Nkrumah is naging increasingly intolerant of criticism at na-overthrown siya ng 1966. So, naging masyadong problematic yung experience ng Ghana sa socialism sa kanilang bansa. Next naman is yung sa Guinea, kung saan naging independent sila pero nagkaroon din sila ng maraming difficult conditions as they face the socialism. Guinea's African socialism was premised on the development of state-run mechanized farms and market controls. Kaya lang, itong Guinea, they lack educated personnel for state-led development. Its independence, it had fewer than 50 university graduates, a legacy of colonial policy. Kulang naman yung Guinea sa educated personnel. Hindi nila alam kung paano papatakbuhin yung colonial policy. As social discontent mounted, tourist rule became increasingly centralized and authoritarian. So eventually, yung pamumuno naging authoritarian na. He remained in power until his death in 1984. So sa Guinea din, hindi rin naging successful yung socialism. So now we are going to talk about the socialism in America. The history of the socialist movement in the United States spans a variety of tendencies, including anarchist, communist, democratic socialist, Marxist, Marxist-Leninist, social democrats, and utopian socialist. The Socialist Party of America was established in 1901, in where socialists of different tendencies were involved in early American labor organizations and struggles. This reached a high point in the Haymarket Affair in Chicago, which started International Workers' Day as the main workers' holiday around the world. Labor Day and making the 8-hour day a worldwide objective by workers, organizations, and socialist parties worldwide. Under Socialist Party of America is Eugene V. Debs. He was an American socialist, political activist, trade unionist, one of the founding members of the Industrial Workers of the World, or IWW, and 5 times the candidate of the Socialist Party of America for President of the United States. Unlike in Canada, Europe, and Oceania, a major social democratic party has never materialized in the United States. And the socialist movement in the United States was relatively weak in comparison. Also, in the United States, socialism can be stigmatized because it is commonly associated with authoritarian socialism. This also has been incorrectly used to mean any tax-funded programs, whether privately run or government-run. Socialism has been used to argue against economic interventionism. Sa Amerika, nagtayo rin sila ng samahan na kung tawagin ay Socialist Labor Party or SLP. Ito ay tinayo sa New Jersey noong 1876. This party was made up of German immigrants who had brought Marxist ideals with them to the North America. The party also encompasses a broad range of various socialist philosophies. At yung mga philosophies nila ay mabilis na naka-influence at kumalat na ngayon ng start of 20th century at kinonsider na ang Socialist Labor Party was the foremost American socialist party. Daniel De Leon was considered as the leading figure in the Socialist Labor Party of America. He emerged as an early leader and adamantly supported unions. But at the same time, he also criticized the collective bargaining movement within the United States. Dahil dito ay nagkaroon ng disagreement between De Leon supporters and detractors within the party. At dahil doon, yung iba niyang mga opponents ay umalis doon sa Social Labor Party nila noong 1901. At yung mga umalis na yon ay nakipag-fused kay Eugene V. Debs na sinasabi ko kanina. Next is yung ties to labor. The Socialist Party formed strong alliances with several labor organizations because of their similar goals. So nakipagsama ang iba pang mga Socialist Party na merong parehong objective tulad ng sa kanila para mas mapalakas yung alliance ng kanilang mga organizations. Isa sa mga goal nila is to rebel against the abuse of corporations. Workers had found a solutions, or so they thought, in a technique of collective bargaining. Dahil nga maraming mga corporations noon or mga companies na inaabuso ang mga manggagawa, ito yung isa sa mga naging mitsa para magsimula sila ng mga organizations na susuportahan yung similar goals nila. They band together as unions and they refused to work, or tinatawag nating striking. The socialist movement was able to gain strength from its ties to labor. So ang ties to labor, ang isa sa mga naging dahilan kung bakit mas napalakas pa ang mga socialist movement noong time na yon sa Amerika. And even now, in the 21st century, marami pa rin mga members ng Democratic Socialist of America ang nagpo-protest, tulad na lang nung nangyari noong September 17, 2011, kung saan inoccupy nila yung Wall Street para magprotesta, at sila yung mga member ng Socialist of America.
Guys, I'm Catahum and I'm gonna be reporting socialism in Asia, Europe, and Oceania. Socialism in Asia. China adopted socialism when it was a semi-feudal and semi-colonial country. It is in the primary stage of socialism. Certain policies and system characteristics such as commodity production for the market, the existence of a private sector and the reliance of the profit motive in enterprise management were changed. These changes were allowed if they improved productivity and modernized the means of production and thus further developed socialism. So sa China, those privately owned firms, nag-generate sila ng GDP for China from 33% to 70% according sa news sources. So after the US, China na yung may second largest economy in the world, and yung China naman yung number 1 largest manufacturing economy. So paano ba minamanage ng China yung growth nila pagdating sa economic influence? So si China, they transition from a socialist economy to a socialist market economy. And si communist regime, na-realize nila na it would be disadvantage para sa China's economy na maging secluded from the rest of the world. Secluded, or in other words, private from the rest of the world. So, after those realizations, they were able to naging successful sila pagdating sa economy, and they able to successfully strike yung balance between collective and capitalist approach. And after din nun, nagtuloy-tuloy na, nagkaroon sila ng policies na kung saan pinapayagan nila yung mga entrepreneurs and investors na mag-take ng profit pero meron pa rin control ng state. And around 2004 naman, yung government, pinayagan na rin nila na magkaroon ng rights, magkaroon ng person's right to private property, mag-establish ng mga special economic zone, and magbukas ng international trade. Dahil doon, nag-embark sila on fast-paced economic growth, all courtesy to the right changes to the socialist policies at the required time. Sa Vietnam naman, the ideological foundation of the Communist Party of Vietnam, or the CPV, for the development of the country ever since its establishment, sabi ni Ho Chi Minh, socialism is about making people rich and powerful. Socialism is to bring the people with freedom, prosperity, happiness, and chances of education, medical care, and good accommodation under socialism. Children will be nurtured, and the elderly will be cared for. Ho Chi Minh also indicated that socialism is not a complete model but a constant formula. So, building socialism must be practical, consistent with objective conditions, must uphold the law, and must know how to apply rules in a creative way, avoiding literal dogma, stereotypes, and other things. So sa Vietnam, yung CPV, or the Communist Party of Vietnam, nag-implement sila ng platform of national construction during the transition to socialism in 1991. So, from the term na underdevelopment si Vietnam, they became a middle income developing country. So, dun sa 1991 platform na ginawa ng CPV, there were 6 characteristics ng isang socialist society. And then, habang nagtagal, nagkaroon ng 2011 platform na kung saan from 6 characteristic naging 8 characteristic of socialist social model. But in summary, sa Vietnam, we can say that it continued to build in the 21st century. So, pagdating naman sa socialism in Europe, European socialism broadly refers to socialist thinking and socialist political movements on the European continent. European in connection with a socialism stands for more than a geographical area, implying the existence of a specific European model or a specific European type of socialism. Often refers to the kind of mixed economy model with universal social rights promoted by social democratic parties. So, sa Europe, marami akong napapanood at nare-research na nagkakaroon sila ng political debate pagdating sa Denmark, bilang si Denmark is a part of Europe, if si Denmark ba is a socialist country or not. But according to the citizen of the Denmark, sa Denmark daw, they pay high taxes and they have a high level of government spending, and he says that it's the key features of a socialist mentality. Si Denmark is a full-on free market capitalist country according sa kanya. And Denmark has the strongest protections of individual property rights in the world. And sa Denmark din, sobrang dali lang mag-open ng business sa kanila. So, according sa kanya, as a citizen of Denmark, it is not a socialist country, but a small capitalist country. But in general, sa Europe, dinedecline nila yung idea ng socialism because, according sa kanila, they see socialism as power over people and power to the state. Pagdating naman sa socialism in Oceania, there are countries in every region except sa Oceania na nagkaroon ng some sort ng socialist rule. So, they never had socialism in Oceania. So, there were 4 categories ng countries sa Oceania. Australia and New Zealand, very small native countries, bigger native countries, Papua New Guinea. And sabi dito, yung 3rd and 4th categories, mas meron pa silang potential siguro na makapag-start ng or makapag-establish ng socialism sa Oceania. Socialism in Australia, nagkaroon lang sila ng history, but in recent time, I think there's no socialism at all pa. Notions of socialism in Australia have taken many different forms, including the utopian nationalism of Edward Bellamy, Marxism, and many more. So, yung timeline ng history ng socialism sa Australia was the pre-federation, socialist colonies, and then founding of the Australian Labor Party, and then post-federation, and last is in the contemporary era. But in the whole Oceania, they never had they never been a socialist country.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of socialism? Let's go to advantages. First, showcasing the egalitarianism, making us all equal. Second, it aims to reduce the poverty by giving a minimum basic income for those unemployed and to those who are unable to work. Third, it provides the universal essential like education, transportation, hospitalization, and such. So let's go to the disadvantages. First, it reduced the incentive to invest and to work hard. And there is also a risk in economy because it may deflate the efficiency and the effectiveness of the overall economy and might lower the living standard. Lastly, the negative association of power in the government and within the civil rights and liberty of the state that may lead in government failure.